Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
Welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I am your host, Drew, and I am super stoked for you to be here with me for part 2 of our best of the year episodes. These are just a couple of our favorite episodes here at the podcast. This week, we are bringing you 6 more of our favorite conversations from 2023. We have Jay Arrington, owner of Greenbrier Studios. We have composer Stephen Keech. We have producer and mixer John McLucas. We have our good friend Seth Munson, mixer and owner of Omni Audio. We have producer and mixer Scott Seigel, and we have owner of Sendai Studios, Mr. Sendai Mike himself. Once again, use this episode as kind of a catalog of some cool episodes to go back and check out all of. But without further ado, here's the best of part 2 of 2023 of the Home Studio Hangout podcast. Let's go.
With other businesses that I knew of, if it wasn't you, it was a competitor, right? So I thought that's how I was supposed to think of everybody else who had studios or produced music. I wanted to be everything. I wanted to do everything, all genres. You know, I went to college for music composition. So I had this expectation that I should basically understand all music and be able to produce all music and mix all music. Never heard anybody say niche down, like specialize in something. So I found myself neck deep in projects that I was not inspired to do at all, but thought that that's what I was supposed to do, you know? I said yes to so many different things that, well, I don't regret doing them because the experience is extremely valuable. But, you know, I just thought I don't have to advertise. I would see another studio pop up or hear about somebody who was producing music and just be like, get away. Like, this is my territory kind of thing. Yeah. I remember seeing somebody put a new website up for their studio that was like 15 miles from mine. And their website looked a lot like mine, and some, you know, wording in the sections was like mine. And I was really mad. But since then, like, I've talked to this person and hung out with them, and I feel dumb for having that reaction.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had to get over that. Let's see.
Just to talk on that point real quick, I feel like there's something to, like, there is merit to doing everything up front. Now, doing it when you're trying to go full time is not the time to do that. Doing that while you're learning and figuring out, maybe in the earlier years, doing everything is good. Because for, like, people that are younger or newer, like, a lot of times you don't know what you don't know as far as, like, the process of doing things. So you may have never written a song, and you may think you might not like writing a song, but maybe you are a natural songwriter and you do actually. So like, trying as many things or different genres or things like that. But yeah, moving into, like, full-time mode is not necessarily the best time to be, like, trying everything and like inundating yourself with stuff that doesn't, like, move the needle for you energy wise, I would say. Like, I'm listening to a book right now, and it's very much like focus on the things that when you pour energy into it, it feeds energy back into you, like, emotionally, or, you know, even from, like, a musical standpoint. It's like, because you are running a business yourself, it is very draining, and there will inevitably be things that you have to do as a business owner that you don't want to do, that is going to drain you. So if you can mitigate as many of those things as possible, and I think that's just, you know, we all go through that phase too, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you learning about that is just a part of life. And also, online studio business and internet studio business and small home studio business was a new thing then. Like, it wasn't really a big thing in 2015 to 2017. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very new landscape. But anyway, continue.
So, let's see. I basically was isolating myself from other people who did the same thing. I didn't feel like I could be friends with other producers in the area. I was cruising along on word of mouth, thinking that I didn't really have to do the business side of things. And I think there are a few exceptions to this, but before I went full time, mainly in college, I would come home from school on the weekends and record the most nonsense songs. I had hundreds. By the end of college, I had hundreds of songs that I recorded in my free time. They were different genres. They were different subjects. Some of them were just like mind-numbingly weird and stupid, but I got so much joy out of listening to them myself. I would get them done and just email them out to all my friends, and they would become inside jokes. Well, when the studio became my business, I just like flipped off the fun switch. It was like, nope, you got to be serious. You got to make these advertising videos that you're wearing a sweater and you never wear sweaters. People have to know that you're serious and that you're good at what you do. Like, and you can't make time for your own stuff. So I didn't know that, you know, putting a dam in the river of your own natural creativity is so detrimental to your mental health. And it was awful. It did some really rough things.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in sync, it's like partially a numbers game, you know, where it's like you can only do so much. Like, it's not like it's a super controlled environment. Like, you don't actually know what they want aside from, you know, the words that they have to offer. So, you know, it's really just about like doing the best that you can do and like just kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that whoever's listening to these and sorting through them, you know, is kind of looking for that particular thing that you also heard in your head whenever they mentioned those words, you know?
Exactly. I mean, music is relative to the listener, right? Like you have to be in the right mental headspace to understand what the music is saying at that time. And some people can see through that more and some people can't. And you never really know. I don't know if you've read the book Big Magic.
No, who's that
Elizabeth
by?
Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. But this book, Big Magic, I suggest it to any creative person. It is foundational, honestly. It's beautiful. It's a very interesting way to understand creativity. But anyway, in that book, she talks about how she wrote this short story and was submitting it to all these publishers, right? And she remembers vividly submitting it to one particular publisher that she really wanted to get published by, and the publisher turned her down. Said, the story doesn't have a good ending. Basically, I don't like it. Like, keep trying. I think she said it was like maybe 5 or 10 years later or something like that. She had an agent who was pitching all of her material, and she pitched this same unedited short story to this same publisher. And that same publisher replied back immediately, loved the story, said she loved the ending. Like, you never know, because maybe that was the 100th story she had read in that day, the first time she read it, and she was like, her brain was broken or whatever, you know, and was just like over it. I know that, like, I'll be working on a track, and at the end of the day, I'm like hungry and tired, and I think everything sounds like dog crap. And then I go back to it the next day. And I'm like, oh no, it's all good.
Yeah.
Or the fatal opposite happens.
And it is
great. And then like you're on your way to go get a cup of coffee in the morning. You're like, oh, I'm going to listen to that song. And you're like, all right, maybe I'll listen after I get my coffee. And then you get your coffee and then you listen to it again. And you're like, no, this is still just the worst thing I've ever made. I'll uninstall Pro Tools.
Why would I do this to myself?
Yeah, why would I do this?
It's true. You never know.
Yeah, you never
whatever
know.
Mood you're in, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've had similar things happen with artists, you know, where it's like we're working on like a lot of my work kind of happens, you know, in the room. So like we'll be sitting there writing the song. They'll be like, hey, I don't really like that vibe. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And we'll change it. And then once I get down to like actually producing it after the fact, I'll reintroduce whatever the initial vision was that they wanted changed, just to be like, hear me out. Okay. Like, I think you just need to actually listen to it instead of this like super rough thing that we were just putting together in a hurry. And like 9 times out of 10, they're like, no, this is awesome. This is exactly what we needed. And I think it's just like the context, you know, like sometimes, you know, like there's the aspect of like, if people can't actually hear the full idea, then they won't get it, you know? And then there's also like the whole thing of words only say so much in music, you know? And I think that that's like a pretty relevant concept to all that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's another good point. Is this majoritively instrumental music, or is this a little bit of instrumental and vocal, or kind of mishmash of both?
Like I said, so most of what I do is instrumental. I dabble in vocal music, but it bogs down my workflow, and I don't find as much joy in it. I feel like I'd rather, if I'm going to use my voice, I'd rather it be more for an artistic expression rather than, you know, for the machine.
Makes sense.
However, it can be either. I mean, it depends on the library, and it depends on the agent, the sync agent. Like I said before, traditional sync definitely lends more to artists and singer-songwriters, you know, people who are doing vocal music. And a lot of times, it's funny, man, you start to realize like a lot of times the vocal doesn't even get used. Like,
or just like
one line,
a piece of the vocal. Yeah. They just want that one line to like, so that's the funny thing. So my buddy that got placed on Netflix, it was for a Virgin River episode. It was like the finale, and it was his wife's song that got placed. And it was literally just like because of one line that just worked in that moment in that scene, and like the climax scene or whatever. It's like, that's why they picked it. So it ramped up, and he said that one, they sang that one line, and then it went right away. And I was like, daggum.
Yeah. I mean, you never know what's going to get used. It's just like whatever they need in that one little section.
Yeah.
The most tragic instance, I think, of vocals in sync is I was playing, I think it was NHL 2021. And like the soundtrack is public, you know, like you could figure out what songs are on it. There was this one song that would play right before a game starts every once in a while. It was so good. And I was like, this song is incredible. I need to know who did it. I tried Shazamming it. I went on multiple deep dives. Reddit didn't have an answer. And you know, it's bad when Reddit doesn't have an answer. So the only thing I could think of is it was one of the sync songs that they got for that video game. And I am so bummed out because I love that song. And like, it wouldn't play, like the soundtrack would play while you're in like the menu screens and stuff like that. But while like in between periods and stuff like that, it was definitely sync music because none of it was on the soundtrack. And that bummed me out so bad. I was like, why would you guys license such a good song whenever you could have just released it? So then that way I could at least hopefully find it on a playlist somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of that for sure. There's a few songs. I have one song in particular that's like, I've never released it anywhere. It was on Soundstripe for a while, and it was like, it was a vocal song. I wrote it years ago, and it's this like kind of alt country type song. Ryan Adams before he got canceled, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He I never released it anywhere, and I keep getting messages like every like 3 months I'll get a message that's like, where can I find this song, like on Instagram. I'm like, oh well, I don't think I'm gonna release it. Here's the MP3. Like,
yeah,
but like it's also not really my vibe, and it's a good song, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not really your
my thing, and I don't really.
So that's actually kind of interesting. Are you, I guess now, earlier on, I'm sure you were throwing paint at the wall when it came to sync, as far as sync music. You were trying to find like not only what you liked, but like what worked at the same time, So talk about like maybe that part, and then how you kind of found, what was it like finding like what you would consider like your thing when it comes to sync? Yeah.
So I had a unique situation. I went on staff as a staff composer at Sounds Right for 4 years. And that's a unique position because I did 8 tracks a month for those 4 years, and I could, for the most part, I was doing some and towards the end it was a lot of music requests, but they didn't start the music requests until about halfway through my job there. I could just pick whatever I wanted, whatever I thought would license well, whatever I was in the mood to make. And so I got to experiment with like a ton of stuff. I had 11 different monikers, or 12 maybe. I got to experiment in all the different genres. I mean, I wrote like epic orchestral stuff, and I wrote, the Strokes kind of indie rock stuff. And I wrote, minimalist composer, kind of new classical music. And first of all, I learned a ton. I mean, when you're writing and producing 8 tracks a month consistently for a long time, it's in different genres. You're just
at a high quality level.
Your quality has to be high. And of course, like there's a kind of a mental thing where it's like, oh, somebody's paying me a good salary to write this stuff, so I need to like actually make it good. And also you're shooting for job security and all that stuff.
For sure.
Because it's not a common position.
For
staff
sure.
composer, it doesn't really.
That's incredibly rare.
It's insanely rare, and I have never seen it before that, and I haven't seen it since. I was very lucky in that way that I got to experiment with all kinds of genres, and it was very clear, I think, the stuff that I was drawn to. And there's this temptation in the beginning, I think, to like do the stuff that you hate because you know it works. And I would recommend that if you're starting out now, don't do that. Like, just don't. Like, don't do the stuff that you hate. Like, because once you get a big catalog of music, like that's what you're known for. And people will start to seek you out to do the stuff that you hate doing. And that is not a viable career.
We were talking about the same thing with our friend Aaron. You know, he was like, in a lot of ways, like I'm still just kind of known as the metal guy, but I feel like I'm way better at pop music, and he is. He's like, so good.
Alt pop. He's fantastic at alt pop.
And we were talking about how we both had similar situations where we were like complaining about this. We're like, man, we're getting hired for this and we don't want to do it and all this. And we're complaining to, our girlfriends, and then they just stop and they go, have you ever thought about just not doing it? And it's like, oh yeah, I can actually just like not do it. That's the thing I can do, is just not. And so it's funny that you brought that up, because it doesn't change. It doesn't change, And I mean,
regardless of industry.
Right. Yeah, I was about to say that. Regardless of industry, I know Maddie has dealt with that with being into graphic design, where it's just like I could just like not do this and do a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's so funny that we like, it's like we think that we have more value if we do the crap that we hate. And it's just not true, you know, like,
no, it's not true. If you hate it, you aren't going to do as good of a job.
No, you're not.
Regardless of how happy or how little mixed notes or, you know, whatever, like it doesn't matter if you're able to send a rough of, you know, this genre that you hate and the artist signs off on it and they're paying you more than, you know, the artist that you really love. But like, you're going to make better art with the one that you love. And then you're going to end up getting more work. And eventually you're going to be making way more and doing much more fulfilling work, you know?
Yes. I mean, so like mostly what I do now, I do licensing music still, but the majority of my income comes from custom music. So like scoring commercials and films and documentaries and stuff like
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I have a friend who does that out in LA, and he got into it because he was developing artists back in the 90s, like metal bands. And so like back then he was able to like contact a studio and be like, hey, I'd like to spec like these days in the studio. And the studio's like, all right, cool. And then he'd show up with the band and they make a killer record, and then he would send it to a bunch of A&Rs, and then he'd get them signed, and then he'd make, you know, $250,000 or whatever.
Sweet.
And then
pay everybody out. Yep.
Yeah, it was sick. And then like LimeWire and Napster came out, and he was like, oh man, like it's
I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. And then like the rock wave was kind of dying, and he was like, I don't know what I should do. And he accidentally got into sync, and you know, I finally got to meet him last time I was in LA, and we were hanging out, and he was like, yeah, I'm doing this thing for Hulu. And he was showing me it, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, he just wakes up and he gets to like watch a cool movie or documentary or whatever, and then like make music for it. And I don't know, it's really cool, like hearing like how people get into it. Cause like, you know, there's never one like repetitive story.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
the more people that
it's
you
like, and especially now, I mean, there used to be the normal way, like the old way where people would get into it, where you go and you assist a composer in Hollywood, or you like start out as an intern and you're sweeping floors and getting coffee and stuff like that. And then you work your way up to where like maybe you get to score a couple of the cues as like a ghost writer, and they're not going to give you credit and they're going to pay you minimum wage or whatever. And then maybe if the composer's busy when a project comes along, they might pass it down to you. So that was like the old way, from what I understand. Now it's like, do whatever you want. You know, a filmmaker, then score their film. You know, it's like, and licensing,
even with video games, it's like that.
Oh
now.
yeah. I mean, it basically. So licensing music I was doing the custom thing a little bit before I started doing licensing music. I was dabbling in it, but I wasn't making a good income doing it. I was mostly producing bands at the time, and then shifted into licensing music. And because of the sheer amount of music that I have in my preferred genre, that I like making music in, because of that, because I have hundreds of tracks in that genre, filmmakers are discovering me on sites and reaching out to me to score their next documentary or whatever it is. So it's like,
that is so cool,
it's a way not only that you can make passive income, but also get discovered by the people you want to work with in the future, you know,
while you make
money. Yeah. So, and that's one of the biggest incentives to start out doing what you want to do. And you might have to, like, I'm not talking about like write whatever you want and hopefully it will work in sync. You still have to play by the rules, and you still have to like make it good quality and make it work for a specific purpose, but like do it in the genre that you want to make music in, that inspires you the most, because down the line, someone's going to discover you for that. And
I was going to say, what is your preferred, like now? Like what is the thing that you are doing now that you are like, this is my thing and this is my pop?
Yeah. I would say in that cinematic, ambient, to epic genre.
Okay.
Is
so orchestral based things,
orchestral, and then that cinematic genre can go into post rock. It can morph into ambient, like synth ambient, like So just, I think the most important thing for me is that it has emotion. That it like it pulls me into a feeling or into a state of mind, and it's something that I've always loved about music. And not all of my music is super licensable. I think I said it in a podcast recently that like a lot of times you want to dial back your emotion to get more syncs because the super sad kids songs are not going to really sync well all the time. But yeah, I still drive the needle that way because it's what gets me excited.
So one, what was the impetus of the thought? And number two, how did you make it practical?
So the first thing was, I think we were like a little itchy from COVID shutdown energy, and kind of feeling like you're in LA, but you can't do a lot of the fun stuff in LA. And I've always enjoyed these like unique challenges and these unique experiences. I felt like it could be a great way to, in a weird way, force, Michelle and I to create a lot of like really unique memories, and to also have a lot of different experiences instead within making music, as opposed to like going to the same room. People kind of come in, it kind of, every song is totally different, but there's a certain energy to like, oh, now I'm going to a studio I've never been to, or I'm working out of somebody's living room. And there's kind of this fun thrill to that. So that was a lot of the thought. And, now it's like, I don't feel like I need to see any more of our country. I'm done with it. Like we've seen, not in a mean way. It's just like, I've seen most all of it.
It's crazy.
Just for context.
It's crazy how much that the country is kind of the same place all the time.
Yeah. And what was fun though too about that is like, then it also made us probably work a bit harder to find the unique points of different places that we would, normally as a coastal elite, self-described coastal elite, people would be like, why did you spend 3 weeks in Des Moines, Iowa? And Des Moines kind of slaps. Like
it's pretty
we found
cool,
a bunch of great spots. We actually had some like really great dates and outings and exploring that I remember really fondly, but kind of almost, it's the city on the way, and we're going to find great ways to enjoy it. So it was really nice to kind of break out of that bubble for sure. And we did, just for context too, people like we went back from LA to my family's home near like the Bay Area, California. We went to Austin for 2 months, then did the holidays, and then left after that. And we went down to LA all the way to North Carolina through that route, then all the way up to Manhattan, Buffalo, New York, and then down to like Chicago, and all the way back up to Vancouver, Canada, and then all the way down to San Francisco. So we literally did the entire, like, we did a massive reverse rectangle kind of a thing. It was a lot. It was definitely a lot, but I really enjoyed it. And again, just most unique experiences per month by far. Was that road trip for better and for worse.
Yeah. Shout out to your now fiance for putting up with you and your crazy antics and your idea.
Yeah. Michelle's a real one.
Yeah. Shout out to Michelle for not killing you immediately.
This is true.
But yeah, dude, no, I think so. Practically, how did that work? So like because you were going for songwriting projects, but then you were still mixing at that point primarily as well, right?
Everything.
Full production, right?
Yeah. Everything is on the VSX headphones. So that's how I do all of it. And I was like probably one of the first people that bought them like the day that they came out. And I was like, holy shit, these are the headphones that if I like master them, we can leave. Like we can go wherever we want. So I trained for maybe 6 months to get really good on these headphones and
I think I remember
find my spaces.
Me and you having a light conversation about it whenever they first came out as well.
Yeah.
Because I was like, because I think even before those came out, me and you had a conversation about like I would love to learn to mix on headphones. I've been trying to learn to mix on headphones, but like you just don't get enough different context with mixing on headphones that you do with speakers. And there's a lot of variables and stuff. These might be the thing. And it seems like it was the thing for you that made that even remotely possible.
Oh yeah. Like 100% way more fun, being able to do it all in the headphones. And then it just kind of, because Michelle works remotely. Mm-hmm. So then we had no ties to any place. It was just like, all right, well, we can go now. So let's go ahead and head out. And
that's crazy.
Then there was like half routing to people in the country, and then half people still flying in. And I think what was interesting is we kind of planned like what spot we wanted to be like a 2-bedroom apartment. And then we had people like ship in for that time, and we had the extra bed, and then we'd go to do sessions and stuff, and then ship them back. And then certain places where we knew we wouldn't have people. So I think in Chicago, there was one local person and 3 non-locals that flew in that month.
Wow.
Because, it's kind of like, we essentially was able to provide the lodging.
Yeah.
They just had to get there and book a studio, and I, coordinated all of that. So whether it was like local or travel, is kind of more fun, I feel like, for them too, to have it be somewhere new and interesting. One guy wanted to do, we did Santa Fe. So we got like a really cool Airbnb up in the mountains. And it was like snowing, and you get in the hot tub at night after sessions.
Yeah.
And just worked out of the living room. So lots of different, really cool locations and vibes and energies. And it was a logistic hellscape, but it was really fun.
Yeah. I'm sure it was logistically, it was wild. That was, I guess that was the next question, is like, were these, you said you were booking some studios, you were renting out some spots. How many of them were studios? How many of them were you just fully working out of an Airbnb? Or was it like always you booked a studio? Or what did that look like?
I would opt to get a studio pretty much
Sure.
most of the time, budget permitting. Like that's always what I'd rather do. But sometimes, when the truly wanted to go to Santa Fe and do more of a like, nature-based escape.
Sure.
Then it's like, all right, well, we're doing the Airbnb. So it was just a lot of conversation about that. But I do always prefer having a cleaner, more saturated, nice vocal coming in whenever I can.
Yeah.
But I certainly won't berate them for wanting to
catch a vibe,
do some kind of an escape, or being like, catch whatever the vibe is. So maybe 80% studio, 20% out of their home or my home, or somebody's spare space, wherever that ended up being, and setting up a little fort.
That's really cool. And the was it just in your car?
Yep, it was in a Kia Soul. It was me, Michelle, and our cat, and everything that we lived out of was out of that Kia Soul. Surprisingly spacious. Like, it can actually fit a whole drum kit and like 2 basses, because when we used to have my drum kit, it could fit in the touring cases.
Wow.
It fit in there. So it's a little more spacious than people believe it to be.
Yeah. What, you didn't travel with any like extra gear other than like your laptop, your headphones, and your interface stuff, really, right? You travel with any mics or anything like that?
Yeah, laptop, headphones, interface, the Slate ML1 mic,
okay,
and then a few sets of moving blankets. It's for like a la carte, good enough dampening
vocal
to enhance the
spot.
Space.
Yeah.
It's like get some clips, clip this blanket on this lamp to that lamp, and then put it and just do what we need to do. So that was pretty much it, between that and tossing mattresses on the wall and all the weird home-based solutions. And again, I told people this too. Like, this is not. They didn't come in expecting me to have a $10,000 vocal chain, and then I was like, put this cushion here. Like, I knew I was like, hey, transparency. This is what's going to be. It's going to sound great, but just like, this is what this means.
Yeah,
if we're going to work out of your living room.
For sure.
And people were very cool.
If you're enjoying these conversations from the podcast, I think you'll really enjoy my newsletter, The Music Maker's Handbook. It's a bi-weekly newsletter where I condense information from books, podcasts, and conversations that I have with other people in the industry down into bite-sized chunks in order for you to get the most without having to go through all of that information. Let me dive in and bring you those gems in a bi-weekly newsletter. If you want to sign up, you can check the link in the description or go to musicmakershandbook.com to sign up. Now, back to the episode. I would love to hear your opinion, because I know you have opinions. I would love to hear your opinion on the relocation idea from somebody that did it, but also understands the power of the internet in the year of our Lord 2023, 2024. Like, what's your opinion on that? Because I know it gets talked about a lot. People have different opinions. A lot of those people that have opinions don't have number ones. So I would, you know what I mean? So yeah.
So I'm actually struggling with this one currently because I want to be in LA again. But I'm not going to do that until my kids are out of high school. That's unless it really has to make sense.
Yeah.
Like it really has to make sense for me to
for sure.
But my end goal is to be back in Southern California. I grew up there. It feels like home to me. When that's going to happen, I don't know. And do I need it to happen right now? No, I'm very fortunate to be in a spot where people realize they don't need to be here. And to be fair, I have artists flying in 2-3 times a month, even just for mixing projects. Fly in and we mix a single, we mix an EP, they fly out, right? So it's not like the end of the world that I'm not in LA. And if anything, people like not going to LA or getting out of LA, even just for a weekend or so, just to fly in and we work on a project. So it's hard for me to say because I'm also privileged and I understand that.
Yeah.
If I was starting over, I see the importance of being in a music city, LA, Nashville, Atlanta, maybe even Miami, maybe New York,
depending on genres. Yeah.
Toronto.
Depending on genres for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird for a moment. And like during COVID, like it kind of felt like that was going to change, but there's just this overarching
in my opinion, it has to some degree.
Yeah. Like, I'll put it this way. I know a lot of people that live in Nashville who used to think about moving to LA who don't want to move there anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, there's like this certain thing that happens where if you're in a city where there's lots of music, if you're just available and flexible, then that will do more for your career, than like trying to like get into people's DMs constantly and stuff like that.
Dude, me doing recent LA trips post COVID is part of the reason why I'm like, I think I should be here again, because it doesn't matter what I'm doing, who I'm meeting up with. I always eventually end up at this studio with this big artist. And I'm like, every single day, every day. And I'm like, okay, like, I understand I'm fortunate and privileged enough to have the connections to be able to even just like somehow find my way into these situations. And but because of that is why I'm like, I should probably do that, because I'm only growing. It's only going to become, my network's only getting bigger. I should probably be in a place where, I like meet someone tonight and tomorrow they're like, hey, I need a mix. Right.
So exactly.
To me, it makes sense as well, because being not in LA or Nashville currently, I'm like, the DM thing sucks. I don't do it. I don't because it sucks. Yeah. Right. So, but it is possible. Like it's not like, the thing is, we have the option to do those things. It's just, how do you want to go about building your career and your, your connection and your networks?
Yeah. It's wild how quickly things move. Like I'm not like as invested in hip hop as I should be living in Atlanta, but it was like I think it was like a week of moving here. Like I was just like hanging out with like people that I knew just because like I would come down here to work. And like within a week, I was like in a room with a dude who was like in with like Roddy Ricch's camp. And I was like, that's weird. That's real weird, know?
But
and
that's
like,
all because you're just there and available, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. So that's why I'm like, I think music, there's still some, credibility to music cities. Like if you can find yourself in the right place in the right time, it's like the whole getting lucky. but it's really just like positioning yourself. So when the opportunity comes, like you're in a position where you can capitalize on it.
Where
and
you can
I
say
understand
yes
that,
and you can be there and
exactly,
you can make the most of it.
Yeah. And that a lot of that has happened for me just by being in proximity to the things that are happening. So that's why I'm like, yes and no. I don't need to be in LA to survive by any means.
Sure.
But every time I make a trip out there, something significant happens and something cool comes from it. And so I'm like, well, what would happen if I'm there constantly? Yeah. Like that's kind of the mindset currently. So I don't know. There's no good or right or wrong answer to this.
The thing is, I think it's all situational. You know, it depends on how much money you have. Depends on how much money you make. It depends on how far you are into your career. If I would have moved to LA, probably any short of like this year, like I probably would have just straight up drowned. Like there's no shot. Like I
remember you were talking about it, right?
Yeah, like
like some years ago.
Yeah, like I wasn't. I don't think I was good enough. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I was kind of in that mindset of like I should be doing things because that's like what people do, you know. And like I had no clue of like what I actually wanted to do, like as far as like me as a producer and like what am I best at? Where am I most fulfilled? You know, like in these different scenarios. And you know, now like I think it would be way different. But like I think that like for people who are like starting out, like a lot of people just kind of like move there and then it's either like they move back home or they end up making it. And it's like, it just depends on the person.
I was going to say, I think it's also very goal dependent, right? Like what's your goal? Are you fine with like, are you trying to be top of the charts number ones? Like, is that your goal? Sick. You probably do need to live in a music city for some a span of time, at least in your developmental years, right? You probably need to be like in a Nashville or in LA in some span of time to create the connections to get in those doors. Because like you said, most of those doors, and like we were talking about before, most of the doors are connection based. It doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, there's like a bar, but like as long as you're above the bar of expectation, like it's all connections. And the easiest way to make those connections, like you said, is to be there. But if you don't care about that stuff and you're like, I want to be in the tight middle class of engineers where I want to go, I want to do my job, I want to build my business, I want to, you know, make a livable wage, and that's what I want to do for my life. That's cool. You don't have to live in a music city to do that. You know,
exactly. I think they kind of go hand in hand though. Like, like you can be in, I don't want to say the middle of nowhere, but like you can be remote and start building your network from there and then consider moving to a music city. Because if you kind of just go there without any sort of like foundation, it's going to be almost as useless as like, you know, basically starting over. Like, are you going to walk to the grocery store and ask every person like down every aisle, like, hey, do you do music? Like, they're going to, well, I mean, hey, if you want to be a TikToker, maybe
that's
it'll
killing
work,
it on TikTok right now.
Yeah, exactly. but like it's really just like winging it, right?
Yeah.
But if you already have some sort of foundation, like if you start remote and build those connections, when you go there, you kind of already have like a jumping point, right? Like you're not starting from zero. You're starting from something, right? Yeah. And that is kind of what happened with me when I went out there for a bit. It's like I already had things in the motion, like things were already going, and me going out there was like more of an accelerator than it was like a oh, I'm going to have a career. It was like I already have a career. How can I elevate the career? Well, it was me relocating.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the goal. I think that ties into like the goal dependent thing. It's like that was your goal. You wanted to elevate your career. You didn't necessarily have to elevate your career. You could have stayed where you were at and done what you were doing and probably have been fine. But you wanted that next level and like to go up a couple more rungs in the ladder on the music industry. And so it required you to be there, especially because, I mean, in your situation, you had the offer that basically said, the door is open if you move here.
Yep. Yeah. And so I had to jump on it because I was like, when is this going to come back around? When am I going to get another one of these?
That's a once in a lifetime offer, bro.
Yeah.
like straight up. Like everybody does the offer that people dream of.
Yep. And this also ties into the whole positioning myself to get lucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole luck aspect of it was, okay, well, I'm in the position for this opportunity to happen, and the opportunity is happening, but under certain circumstances. Okay, well, I'm just going to make the circumstances work then. And so that
100%.
That was the part of it.
That's exactly it. And I don't know. Like, I mean, I know people who've, you know, moved to places like LA and not been able to do much. And then like, I know a kid who moved to LA and like had a record deal in a month, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, you know, but like, it was like months of like messaging people and getting to know people and all that stuff, like leading up to that, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I think the I'm going to go to LA or Nashville and success will happen to me does not work. And that's,
and it's actually kind of crazy. That's kind of like what happened to Nick, though. He was like, I'm sick of being here.
Yeah, but
you know,
Nick
like,
put in the work.
Well, yeah, obviously. But then he was like, I'm just going to move to LA because like I like music stuff and that's where music stuff happens. And now he's this crazy front of house engineer that drinks fine champagnes. Schools me on French cheeses.
I mean, there's going to be outliers in everything,
sure,
right?
Sure.
I wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't suggest just uprooting your whole life and relocating to one of the most expensive cities in the fucking world, right? Like, it's probably not the best advice to give someone who's like, "Hey, the music thing sounds kind of cool." Like, you know, like.
No, it's always get good first, then make that decision. 100%. 100%. That's so funny. Yeah, I'm just going to uproot my entire life and move to literally I couldn't pay to live in a box on the side of the road with the money I'm making right now. Jeez. That's funny. So talking about more mixing stuff. So transitioning from metal to like more pop stuff, I would say what was one of the bigger mindset shifts that you had to make on how you approached mixing between those two genres? Or did you find that there were more similarities than you were expecting?
I kind of forced certain things to happen when I would mix genres that I didn't necessarily, I don't want to say that I didn't want to, because I don't take on projects I don't want to work on.
Sure.
But like genres where I was maybe less comfortable in, or like the rock genres. Yeah. And I would kind of just be like, hey, I'm going to mix this like a pop record. Like before I even take on the projects, I'm like, I'm going to mix this like a pop record.
Yeah.
And they were always like, yeah, cool. That's why we're coming to you. Right. So so I kind of always just was in the mindset of like, what's the most important thing of the song, regardless of genre? Mm-hmm. That's where the focus is going to be. It's always the vocal. You know, I take on a couple instrumental projects here and there, especially like in dance world, which is cool because it changes things up a little bit, and like some like instrumental post rock projects. Mm-hmm. But it was always like, I'm just going to be vocal front and mix it like a pop project. So I didn't really have the like, how do I, work in this genre that I don't know? Well, I'm just going to make it how I wish the genre sounded. And that was like the approach that I took to, that, and that's still the approach that I take to today. Like it's, what do I want this to sound like? And that's what I'm going to do.
So it's really funny you say that. So we had a conversation on the podcast with my buddy Scott, who mainly mixes like very extreme, heavy music. And he's doing like the Woe Is Me comeback stuff, which is sounding really, really great. He's killing it. And he's like super young he's doing a great job. And he was like, he does a little bit of EDM stuff too. And sometimes he's like, what are these sounds? And then he was like, his approach is always, it's just frequencies. It's just sounds. It's all just tones and frequency spectrum.
Absolutely.
Let's treat it that way. And then try to get the sound that I hear best come out of the speakers.
That's right. So my ear, doesn't matter what genre it is, like things are going to bother me no matter what. Like that's the thing, right? What's going to tickle my ear? How do I get it to do that? It doesn't matter the genre at that point, because it's just like, okay, but that's still like, it hurts my head to listen to this. Like I need to fix that. Like it doesn't, that's like universal across the board. Genres don't matter for that.
Yeah. That was something that kind of, blew me away, like watching your courses and watching you go through these songs and like hearing, like, I don't know. I still haven't found any courses that are as good as the ones that you did, because like you did a really good job at like articulating like what you were thinking, and just hearing things that were bothering you that like I would have missed, but then later on would have compounded and been a bigger issue. And yeah,
I'm glad that translated and came through. That's the whole point of these, is like real life scenarios, real life mixing. Like, this is actually what the process is like. It's not this super perfected, cleaned up, super edited, like, oh yeah, I'm perfect, I made the perfect mixing move, first try. Hell no, that's not how mixing works. It's true. We try something, it works, and maybe it doesn't work. Okay, if it doesn't work, you do something else. Like, that's practical mixing, right?
100%.
So I'm glad that translated, through the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, no, that was I would love to talk about Omni, like getting into that kind of stuff, the Omni audio stuff, man. It's really, really great. I watched the obviously, because I'm friends with them, also the Venus and Comfort attended
awesome
session.
I love that one.
Yeah, that was great. And like, I think you've mixed something that I produced with them before.
Perfect. I don't even know if I knew that. That's super.
Oh, really?
Cool.
Yeah, it was.
What's the name of that song?
I can tell you, because it is one of my. We did it during COVID.
Yeah, I think I wrote on that one.
I think I Lost My Touch.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good one. Yes.
Yeah, that was my production.
They're amazing. I love those two. They're so good.
Yeah, they did a killer job. But yeah, watching that one specifically, because I was like, I know kind of how they think also. So, and genre-wise similar. So I was like, this is going to be very interesting. And like Josh said, it was very interesting to see you go, here's where I'm thinking, I'm hearing this, and then pulling it down and checking, and like being one of those things where it's like, well, these are moves that I could potentially, as a producer, make. Like, there's some things that I can take from this as a producer to be like, oh, I'm going to make some of these moves to make mixing easier, or approach my production a little differently in order for you as the mix engineer to get the most out of it.
There's this whole concept where I feel like a lot of people view mixing as like trying to make everything fit, when really it's more like, what do I want to hear from each track?
I look at mixing as like a priority list, right?
Yes.
Like that, like what are we, what's the whole purpose here? What's the point of this song? Right?
Yeah.
How do we emphasize those points? And in order, right? It's this first, then this, then this, and this, and this. I don't know what those points are until I listen to it. Right. But that's the thing though, is it's like, I think a lot of people approach mixing as like, oh, this is how you make a good snare sound. Well, what does that have to do with the song? What does that have to do with what this artist is trying to say to their audience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what are we talking about here? Right. And that's why I have a lot of hard times with online mixing courses and tutorials and things, because they're good for fundamentals. Like, yeah, you should probably know how to do that, how to achieve those things, but don't do it every time. Don't you do that when it's needed. And not only that, you need to know 10 other ways to accomplish that same thing or something similar, or to not do that at all. Like, how do you not do that? Because that's not what this record needs. So yeah, that was part of the reason we did Omni at all. Because I was actually very against it at first. It took Moshe, I want to say 2 years of convincing me to do this. And it's because I was mentoring him this whole time. And he was like, you should be teaching people this kind of stuff, because, I've learned that this is the way that you do things. And I'm like, that's far from the reality of what mixing is. And he was like, well, and I was like, and I don't want to do courses and things and have people take away those exact aspects that I dislike. And he was like, so teach people to do it right. And I was like,
yeah.
It's the simple things, right? It's like, oh yeah, I could just do it correctly.
I could just teach people what mixing actually is, what the reality of mixing is. And so that's why we took on, that's why it's been this whole project, and it's been fun. It's been super cool. And it's cool because I hear things like both from you guys of you guys took away something that was actually practical from it. And Drew, to comment on that, it's that one specifically. We have the artist in the room and the producer in the room, and for whatever reason, there's like this stigma around when mixing. You don't want the producer, you don't want the artist in the room. I want to do my thing, and I don't get it. I have such a big disconnect from this.
That's not how it works.
It makes no sense to me. Like, what? This is the person that knows the song in and out. They know what they want out of the song, out of the mix. Why would I not have them here from the start? Oh my God. Like there's never revisions when someone flies in and sits in with me while we mix. There's never revisions because we do it on the spot. We're doing it on the fly.
Like a lot of, going back to the LA thing, a lot of the mixers I know in LA are always talking about doing attended sessions.
Always.
It makes sense. It makes the most sense. And it's like, for some reason, like, especially people that aren't like really involved in more of, or like aware of like how like most of like the industry operates, like there is like that weird stigma where they're like, oh, I would never do an attended session and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
it's like, well,
I'm always like don't do them. Let me do them. You get no work and I'll continue to.
Exactly.
Like, it's fine.
Exactly. So maybe because I was going to say, so we talked about it. I would actually like you to explain what Omni Audio is for the people who don't know, because we know, because we've seen it.
Yeah, you guys are here. You guys have been with, from the start. You guys have seen the progress. So Omni Audio is an education company that I thought should exist that doesn't exist. Right. And it's for mixers, and it's not even like fundamentals. It's like I expect people who are like intermediate to advanced mixers to like jump on and like, how do we elevate what you're doing? Like where is the disconnect? Because obviously you know how to mix, like how to make something sound good, but how do we get you up a level? How do we advance that? How do we accelerate what you're doing? And one of the early mindsets of it was kind of around money in a way, where it was like, what's the difference between a $300 mix and a $1,000 mix?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What are the things that you're not getting that can help get you to a much higher level of just mixing in general? Like, what are the sonic things that you're missing that you're not even paying attention to? You might not even know exist. Right. And so it's little things like that. Like, how do we elevate intermediate mixers to becoming far more advanced and getting to that next level sonically, in their career, financially, all of those kind of things? Like, and I felt like there's a disconnect and almost some gatekeeping in a way, where it's like, yeah, everyone has a YouTube channel that teaches you, this is how you mix a pop vocal. Here's 3 different ways to mix a kick drum, whatever. What happens after that? Right? You're kind of just in the wild, in the open, like no one knows. Like it's like it's very gate kept, and I get it, right? Like people are scared of their careers getting jeopardized if they give all their secrets away. I have a very different mindset on this, where I could show you every single thing that I do, and it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you don't have my ears, you don't have my taste. You can copy every setting, and that's fine, because that only worked for that one session that I did that I showed you how to do. That's really irrelevant.
That you just said taste, and it's like, that's really what you're hiring for.
Absolutely.
Like the one
how
Discord
I prefer
I'm
to
in,
hear audio is what you're hiring me for as a mixer. This is how I prefer to hear this. Hear anything.
Yeah. The one Discord I'm in, like there's a few guys who are doing bigger stuff, and it's like the one mastering engineer, like he's mastered for like Lana Del Rey and Taylor Swift. And it's like, he still talks about emotion. Like that's why he gets hired for big projects, is because even though mastering at that level is basically just quality control, the first thing on his list is, how does this emotionally connect with the artist or with the audience? And how can I improve that? Sometimes that means RXing the track and rendering it. Sometimes it's doing a bunch of heavy-handed moves with an EQ, but it's like that's like the first thing that people should be thinking about. And I think that mixing and mastering at the lower levels is often thought about as this very technical thing. And sure, we can
and
say
there is to some degree.
Sure.
To some degree, you have to have technical knowledge and know-how.
Yes.
To even get to the point to then go, okay, how do I pull this emotion out of this track? If you don't know the technical aspect of it, then you're not going to know how to do that, right?
100%.
But the problem is there's a disconnect that after you know the technical, there's like this fall off where it's like that becomes everything almost, it feels like. And that's the big gap between the big boys and the little boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the big gap, is like there's a disconnect, and I'm trying to help bridge that. Like, hey, you're not even paying attention to this thing, and that's the most important part. You're missing it completely. You don't even know it exists.
Yeah.
You need to start paying attention to this.
Production happened because I actually just pursued mixing. And I loved mixing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it started as I love recording. And then I was like, I want it to sound better. I'm going to record so I can work on making things sound better. So I literally would record. I would like take all of my writing, like anything I could do to mix something, I would do. I did it for fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just end up learning production and recording and other stuff you can't get to that stage. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I've just picked up stuff as I did that for the most part. It wasn't until a few years ago that I like actually was like, I'm going to look at Native Instruments stuff and like try to like work on like sounds and stuff. You know what I mean?
Some more sound designing kind of things.
Yeah. It was always just like, I just need to find something that's good. And like, I want to like fuck around with that. And that was like the extent of me exploring production, was I just want something that sounds really, really good. Like that would also like would make me work on it, but isn't like raw, like it just sounds really good. I don't know, something like that.
I definitely vibe with that, because I kind of had a similar experience. Like I thought I was just gonna like mix forever, and then I started like working with bands in person, and then the more that I got into production, the more, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, I guess you could say, processed everything became. You know, where it's like I was really getting into, you know, how can I manipulate audio to do crazy shit. And that is what kind of got me into pop music. You know, it was like, well, I'm writing these songs and structuring these songs like pop songs, and I'm doing crazy production stuff. I should probably learn how to make a pop song. And then it's just kind of like all just went into there. And then it's now just recently, like I'm really trying to do my best to get into synthesis. And so it's, I don't know, it's kind of funny, like seeing how like you'll get like a taste of something, and then like 6 months later, you're like knee deep in it, you know? So
it's nuts, man. That's exactly what happened. Like mixing is really the only thing that isn't guitar that I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like it. That's like my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what you got some of your bigger credits for, was for mixing, right?
Yeah, it's like most of my work. Like 90% of my work is mixing. And like I actively try to work doing mixing like the most. I don't like go out there and be like, who wants to record their record with me? I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah. It's more of a send me your stuff and let me make it sound very good.
Yeah. I love that. Like that's just more my favorite. Like I think it's all interesting. All music production, the whole process is interesting. But there's some stuff I don't want to do.
I
don't want to mic up a drum kit ever. I don't like tuning vocals. I don't know how to mic up a drum kit properly. I'm very glad I don't mic up an amp anymore. Like I just don't like doing that stuff. It's not the part that like interests me. I like learning about it when I meet somebody that's like really good at it, and we're in a situation where they can like show me.
Like that's whenever you learn the most. Like getting to hang out with Lee while he was like engineering a drum session was like crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Because like I didn't have like, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so like there weren't too many studios back home, so I never had the opportunity to like come up under somebody in a studio. And so it was really cool you know, like sitting down and like watching how he does everything, because a lot of it's very similar, but then a lot of it is very different, you know, and watching how he would do things just because that's just how the room sounds, you know, and it was really, really neat, you know, because drums are definitely an art. Like, you have guys who are like okay at miking drums and engineering drums, and then you have guys where it's just like that's what they live for. Like everything else, you know, like mixing records, producing, whatever they're doing, that's just a way for them to have an excuse once every couple months to get in and like really kill a drum session. And like, I just think it's the coolest thing, you know.
The thicker the tape measure, the better the engineer. Like, and that's the other thing, is if you need a tape measure to do something in music, that's complicated. Like anything that requires like math or measurements, that's a complicated thing.
Oh man, well I just found out that some DAWs have an issue with rendering like stems in a sample accurate fashion, and particularly Ableton and Logic. And so apparently like a bunch of experienced people, this is like commonplace, and they'll place a sine wave at the end of each track. So then that way, when they export, they can double check and make sure that everything is phase aligned.
That's really smart, actually. That's really
and I
smart,
found out
actually.
about that, and I was like, that sounds like...
God, I've gotten stems with little blips at the beginning, and I'm like, why are these here?
Dude, like, it's...
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's actually
that
crazy.
makes sense.
I have never...
Real
people,
moment. Like,
this Discord I'm in, all of these people were talking about it, and like it was just common knowledge. And I was like, I've never heard of this. I'm still kind of new to Ableton, but now I'm mostly working in Ableton, and that makes me not want to touch Ableton ever again.
Yeah, that's freaky.
I don't.
You
want
would think
do
Ableton
that.
Of all DAWs.
Well, here's the deal: Ableton actually has a lot of issues because Ableton's entire purpose is playback.
Yeah, it's not meant for
like it's like a live.
For mixing.
It's very good for the live thing.
Yes, exactly.
And
that's also why, like on most computers, you could just start up Ableton and your fans kick on. It's because Ableton utilizes system processes differently to prioritize playback, while like Pro Tools, Cubase, they don't do that. And so
FL doesn't even do that. Like it prioritizes the usage of the internals, not the output.
You know what FL really fucking prioritizes? My damn graphics card for some reason.
Yeah, well,
really? Animations. No, for real. It's a GPU hug. I have a Deadmau5 story where Deadmau5 told me about FL sucking like that.
Yeah, and so like also I don't know if they fixed it. I don't think they've touched the audio engine since like Ableton 9. But apparently if you use groups in Ableton, it slightly degrades bit depth.
Whoa.
Yes.
That
and then also
sucks.
You can't tell me differently, but I swear to God, Ableton playback sounds way different than Cubase or Pro Tools. Cubase
it does sound different than Pro Tools. That's why I can't mix playback, in Ableton.
I've also heard a lot of people talk about how they think that Cubase playback sounds different. And I don't know if I'm just making this up, but I swear that Cubase 10 and Cubase 11 playback sound different than Cubase 12. Because now Cubase 12 sounds like Pro Tools. Like there's no difference.
That's so weird. How does that work?
But like I swear, I was just talking to Lee about this because like we were working on a song and I had my Ableton session up, and like I could not get any of the subs to hit, which is like a common problem I have in Ableton. And I was just like, we're gonna roll with that. We're gonna export to Cubase. We put it in Cubase, and it was just like perfect.
That's so weird. That would make me stop using a DAW.
But like it's so strange because it's like it almost makes me faster. Like the time it takes for me to like export stems, load into Cubase, and like finish the song, like is almost like
better to
zero
just waste
because of how much time I save making everything and how much better the productions come out. Like I'm currently figuring out a way where I can just where I can print in like as I go, have my session set up so I can have a group filled with audio tracks just for printing. So then that way I don't have to worry about exporting like groups plus their stems and then having to sort through them afterwards. But Yeah, like dude, it's so weird whenever you look into like how different DAWs like prioritize things and like how playback is different. Like
That's nuts.
technically, like Pro Tools HD is gonna be, oh, what is it? Does it have to do with jitter? I think it has to do with jitter because like core audio just isn't the best to work with audio, and like neither is like ASIO, like Windows.
ASIO, really?
Yeah, and so
it's not meant for such a high bit depth or a high bit rate or sample rate.
So technically Pro Tools HD sounds better than any
because
other
it's because it's an external card. You run all of your DSP and everything, like all of your audio in and out on an external card that can run like a 96 or 120K like sample rate.
It's not necessarily that. It's the actual like audio engine itself.
Really? I would. I've always heard that. I've always heard that it's because a computer can't run that high that it's the rack unit that like handles all of that, which is probably also true. But
that's why your mix sounds different whenever you play it after you listen to it in your DAW. It'll sound slightly different, and it's because core audio sucks.
Weird.
You know what I always
now DAWs are starting to change though. Like Wavelab, up until like last year, the only way you could get around. I mean, and we're talking about such a small difference.
Yeah. This is like a 1-2% difference. Yeah.
Like it's not worth like the investment until you're working on like number ones, because it just doesn't matter at our level. But I find it extremely interesting. Because we're kind of told that like these things don't matter and they're all the same. And it's like, well, technically they're not the same. So why don't we talk about it and waste time? And like up until last year, no other DAW was able to do that besides Pro Tools HD until Cubase updated Wavelab to bypass core audio. Which is crazy. Nuts. It's crazy. And
also great mastering software.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things. Like people either love Wavelab or they despise it. But
I used to use it on the old studio that I was at. They had it, and I pelted around with it some when I was mastering some records, and I didn't hate it. It was pretty fine. I'm also not a mastering engineer, to be fair, so grain of salt there. I would love to talk and maybe have Scott teach us FL Studio. How does this work? I don't understand FL Studio.
So FL Studio. What was the quote? What was the quote?
Well, Josh, what was the thing that you said?
FL Studio works the way that you imagine DAWs work if you've never opened a DAW.
And that's why I use it. Because it was also just like my friend was like, hey, just use this, and I learned it from him. Yeah, but sure. It doesn't feel like, what the fuck is an aux send? I don't know what that fucking means. Just make it go here, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's
there's a little, you like drag little lines or something, right?
No, you just when you're selected on a track, there's a little arrow that's underneath other tracks. You can either just click it and it also sends it there, or you could right click it and set it as like a side chain. You could make it like send to this track only, so it'll disconnect other stuff. Like, it's just quick and easy, and I don't care what it's called. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just know what I need to do. Like, that's like the funniest thing, because people like don't get it. Because people that actually make music, I don't mean to like put down my other FL Studio users, but like I came at it from that angle personally. FL is insane and it's incredible. But it's just like fun.
I bet living in there, obviously for different reasons, was rough, but also the fact that you couldn't like mentally turn off work when you were there.
Right. Well, still can't do that, but
I mean, yeah, but like there's at least a physical, having a physical separation of stuff.
So important.
It's super important. I was talking to somebody about this. I don't remember who, but I was talking to somebody about the fact that even if mine's in my house, but it's in a separate room, and like when I'm not in here, that door is shut.
Yeah.
Like I don't come in here when it's not work time.
Yep.
To kind of, simulate having like a separate office space.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. Do you find that like helped you whenever you were able to like get your own spot, at least remove it a little bit?
It's super, super crucial. The thing that I do kind of, I guess now that I don't have a home studio, I don't really do my own stuff anymore, which is, I feel a bit, it's and it's not over forever. Like I'll come back to it, but I used to spend all day, every day in my room working on my own musical creations. And now I spend all day, every day in a studio that's not my home working on other people's musical creations. And it's, I sometimes wonder if, and I have no regrets, but it's really been I've traded, I do miss just waking up, being able to sit down and make my own stuff, and just like, that just the lifestyle of being an artist versus the lifestyle of being a artist service provider. I don't miss having the day job though, So,
I feel that.
So there, I do miss, as great as it is to have the separate space, I do grieve and I miss having the home studio. It's something that I do want to set up at home eventually, and have like a production space. And I'm trying to get back into playing music again. I'm learning guitar.
Yeah, I saw you, like you said, I saw you were doing that. You have that like duo project that you do.
Yeah. That's we've been doing that together for 10 years. We meet every week, and it's super fun, man. It's so. I'm really grateful to know Rico Era, my musical partner in that, because that keeps me at least a little bit creative,
Yeah. He was pushing you to like stay on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge though. Like for me, I'm in a band, so that kind of pushes me to do that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, but it also lets me like not think about it as much because there are 4 other people like also in it kind of doing the stuff, so I can step into it and like be super creative for like a little bit and then step away from it and like do my job.
Yeah.
So that's probably a very similar thing for you with that project with him.
Yeah. It's that is it is very compartmentalized. We have in a good way. I mean, in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get that. So I saw you brought on somebody. You have somebody.
Yeah.
You have a hire.
Shout out Ezra I don't know if he's gonna watch this, probably not.
But he's how was hiring? Because that's something that I've actually thought about going into next year is bringing on. So for me, it would be more of like a mix assistant role. How was that?
I can put you in touch with somebody actually that I know that's really great for that. Who I've worked with historically remotely. It's great, man. I think I regret not hiring more earlier. The Ezra came to me, and I get inquiries all the time on the website because I'm running Google Ads. So when people search for studios in Seattle, I pop up there, and so I'm spending ad money on receiving inquiries for internships, whether I like it or not. So people hit me all the time and they're like, I want to come in and be an intern. I'm learning music production, or I just graduated from la-di-da-di-da. I want a place to learn. Can I sit in on sessions? Can I learn from you? And every single time I'm always like, I'm not in a place to be hiring right now, but definitely stay in touch, and because it's been so just like, I'm just in here by myself grinding it out. I'm just trying to do as many sessions as I can. I don't have any work. Psychologically, it's like I don't have any work to break off for somebody, and the space is so small that I can't really have extra bodies in here during the session. It's not like you can. It's too small of a space for you to just chill in the background. Like you're going to be sitting on the couch with the artist, if you're in here, and so it's just too small. And so when Ezra hit me up, it was at a time where I've been doing this now for 6 years, and the overhead here, it just, for me, the cost of running the studio, I want to take it to the next level. I want to be competing with the big studios, the cost of doing that in terms of overhead, it just keeps going up and up and up. So in order to spread that overhead cost out, I need to have to maximize the use of the space. I need to be increasing the volume of sessions per week that I'm doing, and I'm maxed out myself. I can't work.
You have
anymore.
to have another person.
I have to have other people taking the volume. So he emailed me, and it was just like any other email. You know, he's like, "Hey man, I've been producing artists. I work in Ableton. I want to just like learn." And so for the first time, I was like, "This guy seems like he might be legit," you know?
Yeah.
And so he came up. We talked on the phone. He came up. We chatted for a little bit, and then I just started tossing him into it. You know, I started calling artists like, "Hey man, I got a guy that I'm training. Come in, do a session on me, see what he do." You know, and so he's been through it all. You know, in he's getting the works. You know, he's getting
You working him.
He's getting just the, you know, those guys that are trying to do 4 songs in an hour. You know, he's getting those guys. He's getting his reps in, and I basically, it's just like I'm trying to give him as much opportunities and as much experience as fast as possible, because what he has, you know, he doesn't like, you know, he's just basically getting started, so he doesn't have a strong technical background in the mixing or the engineering. But what he does have is he's just a good person to work with. You know, you can't teach that. You can't teach those client facing skills. Like, at least I can't.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, decently on the spectrum probably for what it's worth, and it's so I'm not going to be able to teach him how to deal with clients, because I have my own character flaws and stuff that make me a good fit for some people and not for other people. He's a very nice guy, and very creatively open, and he's got good production chops. And so I don't really care about the mixing or the technical stuff. I need him to be able to work creatively with people, and provide that in a way that I can't because of my own my own internal hangups. So he's going
what
to
is
excel, you know?
I was gonna say, so what?
Hopefully,
what is his actual capacity with you right now? So he is handling sessions that you can't do, or is he editing for you, or what's the capacity?
He's doing sessions.
Really?
Yeah, he's working. He's available on Sundays and Mondays for sessions right now, and I'm going to put him on for another day here, probably starting next week. And basically, he's just yesterday he got his very first client that I didn't know who it was, and I've never worked with, and they just booked off the website. And they had a great session, and so he's doing amazing. I'm so
that's awesome, dude.
And there's still so much to teach him, you know, and he's got so much to learn. But he's I'm really grateful. And you know, he might leave at any moment, and I fully support him in whatever future endeavors he goes on to do. But
you want to set him up to like be successful, right? Yeah.
Here's what I'd share with you too, though, about the hiring thing, is that for everything that I'm doing with him, whenever he needs to learn a technical process, say like bouncing stems, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do a screen recorded video, and then I'm writing a checklist that's going to go in a Notion document, or Google Sheets or whatever, Google Docs. And all of that material. So I've got, you know, how to set up a project, you know, the workflow for recording vocals, the workflow for setting up and mixing a vocal, the workflow for mix bus and mastering in the session, you know, just to get a loud master in the session. All these things, I'm working on the processes for them, and also just how to, you know, work the ones outside of the computer too, just like or in the computer, but like setting up a project, saving the project file, organization, all that stuff, documenting it, checklisting it, so that when the next person comes in, all that material is just ready to go, and Ezra can administer that material to the next person, and eventually this whole thing runs with as little involvement from me directly in the weeds as possible. I mean, I'm always going to be in the weeds to some extent, but
but you're not having to reteach stuff every single time. to as much detail.
That's the idea. That's the end goal. And so when I find myself reteaching something to him, that's when I'm like, oh, I need to develop a process and a checklist and a video tutorial for this. Or if he's got something that I know, like the other day, he needed to bounce stems for somebody, which hasn't had to do yet, in export like stems at a high, at a level that's like will be acceptable for another engineer to take, basically.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't going to be there for the session, so I just made the whole video, whole checklist for him. Takes me about 20 minutes to do it, and then just send him off to the races.
Hey, yeah, man. I've kind of started doing that a little bit. It's funny. I started doing that more for like, I wonder if I can turn this into content rather than is this something that I could do for a potential hire. But
it's both, though. It is both.
It's kind of both. Yeah, it's kind of both.
Those things can ultimately become and what to do with all that stuff, whether you turn it into a lead magnet or because some of those things are so functional and so purposeful that they're not really going to perform in the algorithm like a good piece of content, or they're not maybe the most searched for thing, but they could potentially be a good lead magnet, or like they're a valuable asset to have no matter what.
No, yeah. Well, and regardless, it's if other people ask, how do you do this thing, you can just direct them to a video rather than having to type out this whole massive thing.
Exactly.
I have people always ask me like a video / like checklist lead magnet thing that I'm working on is how do I prep to go into a studio for the first time? And it's like,
nice.
Easy video checklist. Here you go. You know what I mean? It's like, that's an easy thing, because what I can also do with that for me is whenever a person is coming into the studio with me for the first time, I will just send them that thing.
Nice. Yeah.
So then they are more prepared coming in to work with me.
Yep.
And there are just some things that I found from like you said, bouncing out stems. Most people don't know how to bounce out stems. Most people don't bounce out stems, bar one, beat one to the end like they're supposed to.
Right. It's insane.
Yeah. So, I don't. Yeah, bro. Sometimes you just get stuff and things are everywhere.
Here's my tip and trick for the listeners at home here who need help bouncing stems is that the only all the processes for doing it matter zero unless you check them before you send them. So that's the most important part of the stem process, is taking all the stems that you've exported, dragging them back into an empty session, and clicking play to make sure that they resemble the song that you're working on. If they don't resemble the song, then start back at step one and do it all over again. If you do not check it, there's no way to know, and there's a high probability that something is very, very fucked up.
Especially if you've never done it before, or it's like you're super new to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have a tendency to, if I'm in a rush, I'll just shoot it off. But I've also learned that like sometimes those are the ones that I fuck up.
Yeah.
So
no, I've done it enough times that I just don't trust myself anymore.
That's fair.
Because a lot of times it's a referencing thing. Like I'm referencing a track in the session, and so something is soloed that's not supposed to be soloed right before I bounced. And if something is soloed right before I bounced,
nothing's there.
Yeah, all the stems are blank, and that's happened.
And then you go off on vacation for 2 weeks and you can't do anything about it. Yeah. So that's actually happened to me before. I've gotten stems that way. I've never sent it out like that, but it's happened to me where like an artist was working with a different producer. I was mixing. He sent me stems and like half of them were blank. And I was like, I go mix it. And I was like, yo, what's up with this? And he's like, I'm 2 states away and not even at my computer. I was like, damn, cool. Sorry, artist. Not gonna be able to get to this till next month.
Yeah.
It happens like that sometimes, but
all the time.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, dude, I've been enjoying your content stuff. It's very fun.
Oh,
my
silly dude, it's just silliness.
It's so good, dude. what is it? My red flag is that
my toxic trait. Yeah,
my toxic trait is that I can reproduce any vocal.
Yeah. It's funny because there is a part of me that is like, I be in here like listening to people struggling in the booth and thinking like it's like really like some red flag shit, like thinking in my head like, oh yeah, I could do that if I went there, like, and I really can't. But it's fun to try to get close enough. That's the thing. It's like, is it close enough? Is it? Yeah, and have fun.
Yeah. No, that's fun. I honestly though, I think that's something that's actually good for you. I think that's something that people should do more of, right?
Oh yeah,
I think
it's the best way to learn.
Yeah, best way to learn, right? It's like somebody was, I was talking to, I think I might have been talking to Seth about this actually, and he was like, the only way I've learned how to do anything is by recreating stuff.
Yeah. Just
I've learned the most by saying, oh, that's really cool. I really like this song. Let's try to remake it. And then like listen to like these weird things.
And he's really good at that too.
Sometimes
on the production stuff.
You'll come across,
and
sometimes you'll come across
with the mixing. Like I've never taken any courses, never really watched any YouTube videos. I just have artists telling me like, oh, make me sound like this, or I like the way this sounds in this song. Can you make it sound like that? And then just trying to do it. And you learn it all, sometimes slower than maybe if you did watch a YouTube video, but you learn it eventually,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, from a producer, mix, artist standpoint, I was telling a buddy of mine who's an artist, who's like a songwriter, and he was like, I really want to get into writing, like, I really want to get into writing like folk music or something like that, or like country music. And he's like an indie pop guy.
Yeah.
He was like, I've never done it, but I don't even know where to start. I was like, well, bro, cover a bunch of country songs.
Yeah.
And then you learn how the lyrics flow, what the tendencies are, what the chord progressions look like what the melodies feel like to sing. You know what I mean? It's like just literally sit down and just learn to play a bunch of stuff in that genre. And you'll get really good really quickly because you're learning by osmosis from people that are doing it at a really high level.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's undervalued, really. I think that aspect of it is really overlooked, I would say.
Yeah.
So last thing about your room, I really want to know about this whisper room that you got in the back. Because it's one of those things that I've thought about from the I've thought about from the perspective of like my second spot. I don't know. I've thought about, is it better to just like get a whisper room for that kind of thing? And even for like, if I'm doing I've done some voiceover clients and things like that.
Yeah.
And like people that are doing like voice acting or like not podcasts, but like audiobooks. Things like that. Just from like that kind of perspective, it could potentially open it up to a wider range of clientele rather than just like, most of the time for artists, I just have them like right here. And then they're just going. I have like a Neumann up there and like the room sounds good and it's dead enough and I can be quiet. So what's been your experience with it?
I think that if you are trying to get I don't think it sounds particularly great to record in there. I don't think if it's like, oh, I'm trying to capture like the performance of a lifetime. Definitely don't put them in a tiny box. That's just to be 100% real. But for me, it's more about keeping the sound in than it is keeping the sound out. You get some people that are really hollering. I share this hallway, so there's a lot of businesses in this hallway. It's as much about keeping the sound in, not only for them, but also for the artist's sense of vulnerability. So the artist, and not all artists, but a lot, it really appeals to the client to be able to go into this chamber. And some guys go in there and they want to get a curtain. They want it pitch dark in there, and they they love it. You know, they love just being in the booth. And they love the talk back. They love like not, you know, just being in this complete zone where it's just them and the microphone, and they don't have to think about anything except, you know, it's a sensory thing too, being in there.
Yeah.
And it's so dark. I mean, you can turn the lights on. Some people like the lights on, some people like the lights off, but it's more about the client experience than it is about sound quality. Also my room, I could record vocals out here, but it is, you know, just the shape of the room, the reflections. It sounds the best when I'm sitting right here and nowhere else. It is what it is. Now I got a really good deal on that booth. I bought it used from a childhood friend actually, who I'd worked extensively with. He was like the first rapper I'd ever produced. I don't know how he got it, but
yeah, because they're not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. He was moving out to Nashville actually, and he was trying to get rid of it. So I was searching on Google or searching on OfferUp or something for vocal booth, you know, before I even had the space, seeing what was out there. And I saw this pop up and I was like, oh my God, it's my guy. He's selling this vocal booth that I didn't even know he had. So he gave me a killer deal on it, which I would not be able to afford even now. If I got very lucky. And yeah, but it's very much about the client experience and less about it sounds not, you know, I got one panel in there. I probably need to do a lot more work on the inside, but of course I'm really just doing vocals. Sometimes, you know, like I'll hear it start sounding weird. So I'll go in there and I'll move the mic a little bit because for whatever reason, the height of the person combined with where the mic is in the booth is just creating some, you know,
that can make sense.
Boxy resonances.
Resonant thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, but the clients though, if you go like, basically if you're competing with somebody who's recording in an open room, the amateur artist is going to choose the guy with the booth every time. The amateur.
Yeah.
The person who's not looking for direction, because obviously being in the same room as the vocalist and where you can actually see their eyes and communicate with them, that's a very different thing and lends itself to a more direct style vocal production for rappers who are trying to punch in every bar and they, you know, like
they're trying to move
give
quick
them the booth,
like,
give them the booth, and they love it. And so that's kind of my thoughts on it. It is extremely hot though too. It's inhumane. They should take away my business license. But I'm gonna get it ventilated. It's another big expense that I'm gonna put up this year to get the actual ventilation kit from Whisper Room and install that, because it does get like in the summer it's like over 90 degrees in there. People are like taking off their shirt, coming out drenched in sweat. It's not cool at all.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I never really thought about it from like an artist perspective. I could totally see though, from like a utility for you, because you are in like an office building, so you don't know what's gonna be walking down the hall, and also the opposite. It like keeps the artist in the box and keeps that noise. You know.
Yeah. That's the other. Right. I do. Yeah, exactly. There's a barbershop two doors down from me. Love them. Those awesome guys, but their door's open. They're bumping music. Like if we were recording in the room, like that would be getting recorded. You know, it's not loud enough. Yeah. It's not really that loud at all, but like we would hear it if we were recording in the room. So it's just,
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. It provides a functionality for you, especially like a utility for you, especially based on your spot. Yeah, I've also thought about it for things like audiobooks, which I've done a couple of,
nice,
things like that. And like, I don't know, it was just kind of, they like that super dead thing, or have voiceover space. Yeah. They like that like incredibly dead thing because they need to be able to kind of place it wherever it needs to be placed in, you know, the show or whatever.
Totally.
But yeah, no, I've thought about it, but it's good to know that it's not like a must-have expense.
You don't need it for fidelity, no. But if you were running a studio where every day you're doing sessions, I would highly recommend it. It's the same. It's just for the optics of the, just simply for the optics, honestly.
Makes sense.
It's a huge differentiator.
Do you find that from a like listen back perspective, does it help like break up some of the like talking about monitoring, like does it help break up some of the space, you think? Because it's in your corner.
I have the one I have is massive. It's 5x7. This is the footprint. And it takes up almost a quarter of the room, which makes the room very strangely shaped. I got like this thing going on.
That's true.
The whole situation is terrible. That's why I'm about to go ham on the treatment and finally just
dial it in,
settled, because it's a very but it is such that a lot of times artists will actually, when we're listening back and doing notes and stuff, because the room is so small and because I'm sitting in the sweet spot, they'll actually go back into the booth, put the headphones on to listen, because they can listen, in a way that sounds way more clear to them if they're in the booth with the headphones. And that's the way they get used to hearing it while they're recording. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes they'll go in there, they'll just go back into the booth to listen to playback.
Interesting. Yeah. That makes
and I'll
a lot
go in there
sense.
to listen to playback too, because the artist will come out here and they'll want to turn it up real loud, and everything gets all funny when it's turned up so loud. Yeah. So I'll be like, okay, you guys listen out here. I'm going to go in the booth, close the door, and listen on the headphones real quiet, so I can hear what's actually going on.
Listen to it at like a quarter of the volume.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of our great guests for coming on this year, and I want to thank you listeners for listening. If you have a guest that you'd like to see on the podcast, go to this episode on YouTube and drop it in the comments. We'd love to get some feedback from you guys on who you want to hear us talk with. And wherever you're listening or watching, please subscribe and like and share it with a friend who you think might enjoy the show. We've had such a great year of growth with you and the community and with our guests and just me and Josh being able to do this more regularly. And we're super grateful for all of you for listening. We love you guys a lot. And we're super excited for the next year of the podcast.